Good morning, everyone who's watching. This is The Juice, which is a Start Garden program that we've launched just recently. The idea behind The Juice is that we get a panel of entrepreneurs together to talk about topics that are important to entrepreneurs. And since we launched The Juice, we've done it completely online, and it's been during the shutdown. So the topics pretty much have been evolving or revolving around what is happening in the current business climate when everyone has been thrown into turmoil. So what we're going to do this morning is I'll introduce the panelists. We have Winsome Kirton, and she is the founder of Pack Elephant. We have Kyle VanStrien. Did I say that correctly? Okay.
You got
Kyle is from Long Road Distillery. And then we have Janay from Public Thread. I think the interesting thing about all of these businesses, and you'll hear everybody's individual stories in a minute, is that they all have products. They're all product-based companies. And so the shutdown has impacted each one of them in different ways. And so I think it'll be kind of interesting to see how all of them have had to pivot and do some interesting things to kind of be innovative and resourceful. So with that, let's start off with Winsome. Good morning.
Thank you. So thank you for having me. I am the founder of Pack Elephant, and at its core, Pack Elephant is an intentional B2B gifting platform. So we sell gift boxes that highlight local or underrepresented creative talent. We tell each maker's stories. We put everything into a gift box and sell them to individuals that have a high volume need. So think realtors, event planners, folks in hospitality. We had also done a fair amount of business with employee engagement, but that wasn't really our core. The bulk of our revenue was coming from conferences and other events that required, 100 plus gifts at a time. So naturally, our business took a pretty massive hit with the closures. And when that first happened, I was incredibly sad, not just for myself, but for all the makers in my portfolio. And as an empath, I wanted to help. And I wanted to help them, but I also wanted to help the individuals that are directly affected by the pandemic, those that are getting sick, those that have lost their jobs. So I started out really by just doing a couple of giveaways, because at the end of the day, everyone can use a care package, right? And I think it's just a way to make people feel good. And when I really thought about it and put my business hat back on, that's the core of my business. It's showing appreciation for people. Saying thank you in a way that goes a little bit further, because now you're creating an impact in your community. So I really had pivoted my response to be a little bit more of a productive one. And the first thing I did was increase my partnerships. I reached out to many makers to see how they're doing, and started bringing on more makers into my portfolio. Because at the end of the day, my mission is to make it convenient and easy for anyone to support as many makers as they can. And through these collaborations, I found that there are a lot of opportunities for boxed experiences, especially now that we can't be with each other to celebrate, events and et cetera. So I think right now I'm still ramping up, actually, as we explore the number of different types of box collaborations that we can put together that features so many unique individual creative businesses here in Grand Rapids and in other states as well.
Awesome. Thanks. Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm the co-owner and co-founder of Long Road Distillers. We're a craft distillery here in Grand Rapids. Actually, in about a week and a half, we'll be celebrating our 5th anniversary. Not open as a craft distillery necessarily, as we've run for the past 5 years, but more so as a takeout cocktail kit and hand sanitizer emporium. Over the past 7 weeks, we've had to shift operations pretty significantly to produce hand sanitizer in large quantities for people all over the state of Michigan and the Midwest. And we've shifted our kind of service model from where we had 2 restaurants and bars, one here in Grand Rapids, one in Grand Haven, and then a tasting room in Boyne City that are all now closed, to doing a takeout model, offering our craft spirits and kits that include all of the mixers and citrus and everything that you might need to enjoy cocktails at home, so that folks can pre-order and come pick up Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays, different locations, to still enjoy the things that we offer and the things that we're producing. It's been a really strange time. Our industry is, there's a lot of industries that have been impacted, but the hospitality industry in particular has been devastated by this. And it's been challenging to navigate not only the past 7 or 8 weeks, but also trying to think ahead on where the industry goes from here, and how we all fit into that or don't. And it's kind of scary to talk to friends and other industry members, and to hear what they're thinking and what they're doing to keep their heads above water, because it's certainly a challenging time, and we have no idea what the new normal will look like or when that might happen.
Right. Yeah, we had last week our panel was on restaurant owners, and so that, like you said, the hospitality industry, obviously including food service and restaurants, is just, devastated, changed, and does that mean forever changed? It's hard to even plan ahead. So, and I think that's true for everybody. But yeah, so we'll come back to that. Janay, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. So Janay Brower with Public Thread. We are trying to creatively address social and environmental issues through the art of textiles. And so we're doing that by acting as a community-based upcycling company, where we actually take scrap and surplus textiles and we upcycle them to keep those materials out of the landfills, keep them in the marketplace, support living wage jobs and the growing creative economy. So we've been around since 2016 and have pivoted 2 to 3 major times within the course of our operations, always though staying really focused on the humans that are making the products that we use every day, and really trying to focus in on how do we create living wage jobs in the marketplace, as well as how do we be environmentally sustainable and thoughtful about the textiles that we have all around us. So those things have remained constant. But what we've found is over the years that there are thousands of pounds of textiles that are being thrown away every week, and they're beautiful textiles that we can use. So what's interesting through this COVID time has been that because we have accumulated, we have around 80,000 pounds of materials in our shop that we've curated over the years. So when the whole pandemic really came to Michigan, came to the United States, and everyone was calling for masks and PPE, personal protective equipment, right away we started looking around and going, okay, well, what do we have? And so on hand, we happened to have a ton of 100% cotton that was in large rolls that we could cut up. We had interfacing available that was super random. I don't even know how we got that, but it was a huge roll of material. We, a whole conglomerate of about 150 different people came together within 48 hours to say, how can we help sew? How can we volunteer? How can we help create packets of materials to be able to go out to sewers in their homes? And so we were really able to be a community resource for how do you respond to a community challenge like the safety and health issue that we have in front of us. So, so we pivoted within the span of a week to starting to make masks, cloth masks that have multiple layers and have a filter layer within them, using material that was from around us. We got a huge donation from Notions Marketing, and we were able to take off and start making thousands of masks. Thus far in just over 4 weeks, or just about 4 weeks, we've made, or we're making about 10,000 masks. So I'm pretty proud of us, given that we're like a little small, scrappy team. But we're trying to grow and meet that demand right now. So that's really squarely where we're at.
Wow. And did you say too, not only are you making them in-house, but are you making kits?
Well, we
Or
were.
oh, okay,
We
but
had
now you're
about, yeah, we had about 23 sewers that were in their homes that were sewing, and so we spent the first week and a half really cutting up materials to get out into the community so that we could get that volume until we could figure out how do we going to run production inside the shop because
okay.
of because of COVID, the restrictions of people being all together, safety, etc. We just needed to start making masks, yet at the same time had to ramp up production in-house. So.
Right. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Interesting. So, I mean, as we kind of, as we kind of look at this, everybody's doing what they can right now to be in this moment. But I think, it's only natural as people and as business owners that we're always thinking ahead. We're always looking ahead. You're planning ahead. And I think what's really hard for people right now, just mentally, is to not know what it looks like, even 2 weeks down the road. And so how do we plan for that? How, what do? We have to, I think we have to figure that all out. So Winsome, as you are thinking about, what does a month from now look like? What are your thoughts? Like, do you think, I'm going to continue to make these kinds of baskets? I mean, you're just ramping up and what are your thoughts on doing all of that?
So a lot of so when I think about the messaging around my gift boxes, a lot of it has pivoted to address working from home. It's pivoted to address, essential workforce and giving thanks to them. My husband's a doctor, so I really understand what that means. And I also am trying to find ways to help people bring their experiences to their audience in a virtual way. And a lot of that is around making sure that there is still some physical connection being made, maybe through a kit that's given out for, by a gallery or by a teacher that is teaching an art class. How do we bring that experience to the students without bringing them into their shop? I have a feeling that the social distancing is going to persist throughout the summer and probably for the rest of the year, where people aren't as comfortable being in crowded spaces together. So we need to think forward about how to make sure we can still have those experiences together, because we still need connection. We still need to continue doing business. We still need to celebrate life events, so my strategy in the future, probably, I don't see it really changing from what I have pivoted to in the past couple of weeks, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. How do you go out and curate the makers? How do you find the makers? Is it just, are you searching for specific things, or do you have people contacting you to be part of your?
A little bit of both. So I definitely go out and seek makers, like Public Thread. And when I know Janay, and we wanted to work together for a while. But there are also a lot of makers that are now finding me because I have this channel of a sales channel that is relatively high volume still. And it's an opportunity to get some exposure. So if you know any makers, definitely shoot them my way. I take referrals all the time. I also am asking constantly on my social channels for people to drop new makers into the comments of my posts, and I'll start a dialogue with them directly and see how we can work together.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, right now we have about 112. We have 112 makers in our portfolio, and
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very cool. Kyle, so like we were talking last week with some of the restaurant owners about what they're doing now, what they're looking at a couple weeks from now, and then long term. I mean, you've got a couple of things. You've started making an actual product, like the cocktail kit. And then you've got the hand sanitizer. I mean, you weren't doing the cocktail kits before, were you?
No, not in that form. We've always had bottles of our spirits and our simple syrups to go, but we've never really curated that experience for people or offered an online takeout platform for folks to place an order through the website and then come and pick up at a specific time. So it was really a way to encourage folks to come in. The first week we were closed, we were still allowing people to come through the doors and come up to the bar and order. You know, there were transactions happening in person. After one weekend of that, we decided that we wouldn't be doing that anymore, just to keep folks safe, to keep ourselves safe so that we could continue to do what we're doing. And so we went to a fully online model where now people essentially walk up to the side door of the building and they can call in, or we'll come out and we can bring their order right out to them on the sidewalk. We're, you know, trying to do our best to still offer something of value to folks while also keeping everyone safe. And it's a challenge for a spirits maker because the state of Michigan doesn't allow shipping of spirits by companies like ourselves. So individuals can ship a bottle through UPS or FedEx, but we're not allowed to as a company. So we aren't able to have folks place an order online and then ship it to their doorstep. And so we have a little challenge there. We're also not allowed to do delivery in the state of Michigan. So retailers are able to do that, but as a producer, we can't do that yet. So there's a few things that we've been working on. There's a couple pieces of legislation that we hope will allow for that going forward, even beyond just this current situation we find ourselves in. These are things that we've been working on, especially for some of the smaller producers in the state who don't have distribution channels around the state. To be able to have some limited self-distribution would be a great outlet for them to get their products into more people's hands and to build their brand and to gain market access through distribution eventually. So yeah, you know, how things look going forward, we still don't know. I think, you know, as Winsome said, I think that this sort of offering will continue. It'll become a part of our portfolio going forward, no matter what. Even if things went, you know, quote unquote, back to normal next week, you know, there's still going to be people that are uncomfortable going out, and we understand that. And so allowing them to still have the long road experience at home where they're more comfortable, or even with a couple friends at their home where they're going to feel more comfortable. I think this is an obvious way for us to facilitate that. And, you know, even if we were allowed to open next week, we wouldn't, because I don't think that would be good for anybody involved.
Yeah. So what about the hand sanitizer? That's obviously a brand new product. I mean, I kind of foresee that being around probably forever now, right?
Yeah, we don't know yet. You know, when we first started doing it, we knew there was a need. We were getting calls for it pretty regularly. We had actually started talking about it when the first couple of cases came to California and Washington. And at that time, the FDA and the Tax and Trade Bureau, the TTB, who oversees craft producers like ourselves, didn't allow for us to make sanitizer unless we were to go the process of getting an industrial alcohol permit through the TTB, which under normal circumstances would take 3 to 6 months at best. And so we didn't feel like that was a good option for us. So thankfully, about a week and a half later, right around the time that things shut down, the FDA and TTB, the governor, all made declarations that allowed for distillers in the U.S. to produce based on a World Health Organization formula, and following very strict guidelines, and also increasing the alcohol percentage to ensure the effectiveness of the disinfectant. So we were able to shift to making that relatively quickly. We We produce everything from scratch in-house, which makes us a bit unique because we don't have large totes of high-proof spirit coming to us on a regular basis from other distilleries. And so initially we were thinking, well, we can source neutral spirit from somewhere else and we can use that as the base for the hand sanitizer. We made 2 or 3 phone calls and found out really quickly that they were getting so many calls from their regular customers that wasn't going to be an option for us. And so we started using the backstock of high-proof neutral spirit that we had produced in-house. We quickly used up all of that and then started partnering with other local businesses, breweries, wineries, who had products that were going to go bad with all of the restaurants closed, to take their products and to distill that into ethyl alcohol. And so, yeah, with the help of a half dozen or more friends, like the Mitten Brewing Company founders and Perrin and several others, we were able to quickly bring back a couple of our production guys to start working 7 days a week to distill as quickly as we could. But I don't know how long it will last. Thankfully, the FDA just extended the ability of distillers to continue producing based on the WHO formula through the end of the year, I believe. So that does give us a bit more certainty. It was supposed to run out at the end of this month today, actually.
Okay.
And so that's been extended. So we'll see. It's hard to say exactly where things will go from here, but it obviously in the short term, with some businesses beginning to open back up, we're seeing an increase in demand again. And I do think, especially for individuals and for offices, there's going to be a demand to have things like that on hand.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I didn't fully realize the extent of, the regulations and things surrounding that. But I mean, from a business perspective and from a marketing perspective, I mean, I do think that hand sanitizers are going to be part of the workplace from now on. I mean, I think we had hand sanitizer at Stark Garden, but not, it wasn't certainly positioned everywhere and in certain stations throughout the space. And I know that, when places start opening back up, there are definitely going to be, sanitizing stations and things like that positioned all over in public spaces. And so, it's, I'm thinking, wow, it's kind of an interesting marketing opportunity for people, that are making it, that it's not the stuff that you normally get at the grocery store. It's something unique. So anyway, that's an interesting, that'll be interesting to see what kind of regulations remain and for how long,
Yeah, and it's a little challenging too, because it's an easy case to make for why people should drink craft spirits or locally made spirits. They know where the grain is coming from. They know the farmer. They know that it's good quality stuff. They know the people making it. They know that it's 3 ingredients. Hand sanitizer is a little different. You're not putting it in your body, so people aren't as concerned about that. So it's a little harder to make the case that, yes, our hand sanitizer is going to be a bit more expensive, and that's because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And people may or may not care. So who knows about the long-term viability of it as a product for us? But certainly in the short term, if it's something that we can do that meets a need in the community, we're absolutely going to do it.
Yeah, but maybe it becomes something like, it becomes a gift.
Sure.
It's so hard to find hand sanitizer that,
Right.
maybe getting it in one of Winsome's gift baskets is going to be,
we're in.
a
Sign us up.
treasured item. I mean, honestly, there's all kinds of jokes about people, getting toilet paper as a gift, so why not hand sanitizer?
For sure.
So in a nice, branded bottle.
That's right.
Anyway, so Janay,
we do have like
talk-
30 questions for Kyle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
before we move on.
Yeah.
So-
well, let's do the questions.
Yeah, so Kyle, whatever you said really sparked some questions. They're all pretings closely related, and I'm not surprised because it's all just asking, what do you anticipate? And obviously, without being able to predict the future, some changes you might need to make in the restaurant. keeping tables further apart, occupancy, face masks, things like that. There's quite a few questions, but they're all basically asking that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of heavy hitters in the industry who have been weighing in on this. There was a really interesting article in both the Atlantic and in Daily Beast this week about the future of the bar industry in particular, not even so much restaurants, because I think they're going to have slightly different futures. Restaurants theoretically could be doing takeout right now, whereas in most states, bars aren't able to offer takeout drinks or cocktails or bottles or things like that. It's been, I wish I had a crystal ball. I wish we could predict how things will look. And even before March 16, we had started to make some adjustments at Long Road in how we were interacting with guests and the amount of times that employees are washing their hands beyond what was already suggested by the health department. I think certainly lower occupancy will be an obvious first step that will probably be required. I think, face masks will probably become a thing. It's hard because your guests probably aren't, you can't eat food, you can't eat a hamburger with a mask on. So I don't know exactly how that will look. I think certainly employees will probably need to wear them like we are now when we're working in the space. It will definitely be, it's an awkward thing because you can't read people. You don't know, and are they smiling at me? Are they angry with me right now? I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to predict how that will be received by folks. I think certainly there's people that are eager to go back out right now. Like I said, we're not eager to open back up and welcome people back quite yet. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think there's going to be a wave of creativity. The industry is going to shift, and I think it will probably result in a permanent shift in some ways. So we'll see. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of really cool things that probably come out of it. It's going to hurt getting to that point, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is already been a lot of innovation surrounding all of the ways that people have been impacted and then have had to react. And so, I mean, there are some positive things. I mean, I think we all tend to, we're mourning like the loss of our life the way we knew it. But I also think that, there's ways to look positively about it, and we have to be innovative. We have to be resilient, and things will look differently, but, it's an opportunity for people to look around and kind of, solve problems. And, I think it's a very, very interesting time in all of our lives, so. Did we have another question, or can I move on to Janay?
We actually have a couple.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So a question for everyone. Someone just asked, can you speak to how you keep your team morale amongst your employees and staff in such a difficult and uncertain time?
I would say for us, we, so we've added a number of different new people onto our team as we've gone. And it's almost like criteria is, can you laugh? Can you keep it low key and keep it moving and stay focused, but also take breaks, be thoughtful about your health. And so honestly, we laugh and just talk all day long. And I feel like it is the kind of environment that, I mean, we've always had at Public Thread, or we strive to have. So I think, despite the challenges, we get food. We did a barter system with Brewery Vivant the other day and looked at switching masks for beer. So everyone got to have some beer. And I was like, have a drink, this is the kind of day, this is the week, this is the month that we're having. So let's just be present with each other and be thoughtful about how to connect. So throughout the day, you'll find people kind of rotating around the room, kind of checking in with each other. How you doing? What's happening? So I think, and we have about 12 people in here most days now. So yeah, it's really just trying to keep it light and recognize that we're all in the middle of this, and you know, if things come up for us, we need to be able to have space to address them. So we do.
Yep.
I would second all of what Janay said. I think it's really important now to be able to take a moment and just see how people are doing. I think it's easy to get caught up in the hustle of trying to keep up in your day-to-day, but we're all dealing with something. We all have family that is affected in some way, shape, or form, whether it's jobs lost or lives lost, or sickness. And it's just important to be able to keep that in perspective as you're dealing with people, and know that, you know, we're all doing our best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Kyle?
would say it's difficult for us. We had a team of 50 people, and on the 16th we laid everybody off. We felt like that was that gave our employees the best chance to make it financially, to be able to access the unemployment system. You know, unfortunately, as we've all heard the horror stories of trying to work through that process, it's been very difficult, and we've done our best to find other ways to support staff through this time. But once we learned that, you know, the hand sanitizer and the cocktail kits, and there were other opportunities for us to generate some revenue that allowed us to bring some folks on staff. It's been optional for folks who want to work at this point, because we still don't, and I don't know when we will have enough work for 50 folks to come back. And that's one of the terrifying realizations that I started to have this week, is that even once we open back up, what does that mean? Obviously, I don't think it'll mean that we need quite as many people right away, unfortunately. So, but, you know, I think we all feel a sense of pride in what we're doing. And I think that's one of the great things about working at Long Road in general, is that we do something we love and that we're passionate about. And I don't think that that's any different right now. Both of the things that we're offering right now give people joy, or keep them safe, or both. So yeah, being able to offer those things and to feel like we're part of the solution has been a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Murphy, was there?
We do. We have one more, and then we can.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah, we're getting lots of questions this morning. So this one is specifically for Winsome. With an industry that sends products out to people via shipping, and I mean, this could be for Janay, I mean, you're all sending things out. During a global pandemic, what kind of measures need to be taken on your end to ensure safe, free delivery, COVID-free delivery? And then just referencing that, obviously, there's been some issues with things like the meatpacking industry coming up right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started shipping out more boxes, because a lot of my fulfillment had been in bulk, you know, in-person deliveries, and now I'm doing all online fulfillment. I was like, I don't want to be Typhoid Mary and ship out COVID-19 to everyone. So I'm still a very small shop, and I work primarily out of my house, except I previously had been doing all of my food fulfillment, all of my food warehousing out of the Downtown Markets Incubator Kitchen, and that's per LARA regulation. I have since shifted where all of my fulfillment happens now out of that facility, because I want to make sure that there is very clear separation between my home and any of the products that I'm working with. When I touch anything, it's with gloves. Obviously, when we go outside, when we're working with product or standing over boxes, we have our masks on. And things are going directly from that location to the post office. So we are being as safe as we can, obviously maintaining distance with each other, using all PPE that we have access to make sure that things arrive COVID-free.
Yep. Interesting. Janay, how are you getting masks out to people? What are your processes?
Yeah, so I mean, we're actually building a whole light box right now, so that we can try and do more of the UV rays on the masks. But at this point, what we're doing is we're having to, I mean, we package them up if we're doing shipping, and we let people know that they need to wash them before they use them. But typically, as far as we know, COVID's not staying on fabric for more than a couple hours. And so, as long as we let things sit in between, being, touched, made, etc., that's the kind of precaution we can take right now. I can't do final washing and full sanitization, and I just don't have that capacity. I researched that and actually was working with or we're talking with other business owners to try and see who can do this and scale. But the process of getting something somewhere, timely fulfillment of orders, was just like, okay, we can't do all of that. So we use gloves. Everyone wears masks. We have some long road sanitizer that we've had since the beginning. And so we use that. We have stations around the space for that. So we're just trying to keep everyone aware and say, hey, these are not sanitized. And so we can't say that, but you got to wash them and take care of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question that I was going to ask of you before was just, as things start to ease up a little bit, I think, Kyle said it, that I think that, wearing masks and things like that isn't going to go away, at least not for not for a while, in my opinion, I think most people's opinions. So how you're going to continue to make them, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Do you pivot back into some of your other products as well, and maybe are you still doing anything other than masks?
So we had we are making a few other things that are on our website, on our shop, but most of them we tried to adjust quantities so that people could order things that are already made, so we have them in the shop ready to go. So things like beer caddies and growler holders that we already have made. Other bags that are used where we use billboard signs or banners. And so there are definitely things that sometimes get through where people order something. I'm like, we don't have time to make that right now. But we're trying to do our best to weave that in. So I would say going forward, though, we've been advised, because we work with a group, Isaac in Detroit, which is it's a collective of a lot of manufacturers, specifically around apparel and accessories, to try and reshore cut and sew manufacturing and build that infrastructure in Michigan. And so we have been partners with them, and what they're doing is really getting those large hospital contracts from around the country for making PPE, both masks, gowns, as well as caps or hats that have to be worn in the hospital. So they've said 6 months at least, plan at least 6 months to be making these. And, we know as businesses open that they need to be able to keep their employees, their staff, whomever is in their spaces safe. Because we're local, we can turn these around in a relatively short amount of time. You don't have a huge lag time for, shipping from overseas, et cetera, or a demand to make, needing 10,000. Maybe you only need 200 or 500. And so those are what we can do ongoing. So we're definitely doing that. We're also very much, I'm looking at, 7,500 pounds of Choco straps right in front of me, all different colors, widths, and designs. And so one of the things we started looking at was, how can we use, of course, what we have in the shop, and what are some things that we need to do to continually innovate around how to make masks, even that much better quality, hopefully fit, ensure that we're using all of the things that we have. So we are designing a secondary product right now that would accompany the mask. So we're working on that, and I do hope we can get back to doing more upcycling, because so much has halted. Of course, we can't go pick up fabric scraps or anything at Steelcase. So, that's holding for a minute, but we do have sufficient supply on hand. So we're focused in on the masks for now and for the near future. And then we'll see where that takes us. And as things ease up, where's the demand for what we need to be doing?
Yeah, I think, they're obviously, everybody's being really creative with masks, and they're becoming sort of a fashion statement. I actually, I get emails from J. Crew, because I buy a lot of stuff online from J. Crew, and they literally this morning sent a thing out that they're offering face masks now made out of some of their favorite fabrics. You can order like a pack of 3 pre-ordered, and part of the proceeds are going to some of the frontline workers in New York. So, I mean, I think we're just going to embrace face masks, and
we have to, because honestly, it does keep people safe. You know, whatever the memes are, it doesn't. You know, like the idea of being able to protect yourself and protect others as well is incredibly important. You know, like it's super respectful, and so it's like, yeah, if we're going to wear them, let's make them cool. Let's figure out how to, you know, do that. So we actually started doing partnerships now, where we're actually doing ways that we can do collaborations and support other designers, entrepreneurs like Winsome, as well as others in the community, so that we can, you know, charge a little bit more, and then we cover our costs, and then they get to make some money as well. And so, you know, any way that we can try and spread this around, so that, because this isn't just about Public Thread being able to generate revenue, although this is wonderful because we're putting it directly into the pockets of everyone who's working for us. And so that's amazing during this time to have this opportunity for sewists to be able to earn income. But then help those other designers and entrepreneurs is super important. That's what we're all about. Public Thread, and the name Public is about doing together what you can't do alone. So, I mean, it's very central to what we try to do all the time. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I saw a question, Murphy.
Yeah, we've got another question. There's been a lot of discussion regarding the small business loans from the federal government and whether or not they actually make it to small businesses. Can you speak to your experience and the support from our local governments and community leaders, and then any suggestions or recommendations that you might have for trying to navigate some of that? A big question.
Winsome,
sure. So
weigh in?
Personally, I missed the first deadline for the SBA loan because I just didn't have my numbers in order. As an entrepreneur, I was getting ready for tax season. The deadline was before tax day. I just didn't make it, and I decided that probably wasn't my lane anyway, because I honestly am too small for a lot of this consideration. My overhead, while still very expensive to me, does not compare to many other businesses that have, you know, restaurants sitting empty. You know, I'm out of the downtown market in my house. So there's a big difference there. And I decided to go the route of grants. So I did receive one grant locally here from Start Garden. Thank you guys. And I applied to a few other grants as well, because I think that really for me, it's not only about being able to maintain what I'm doing, but continue trying to invest in the future of my company. I mean, I had so many plans for this year, so many investments that I was making in technology, in new packaging, a lot of capital intensive purchases that just completely had wiped out any cash flow that I had, and I was not prepared to just lose, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in business in a week. So the grant route really has worked well for me. And I think for entrepreneurs, you have to be able to think creatively about how to survive. I don't want to say, you know, survival of the fittest, but it is essentially going to be how creative can you get, how dedicated will you be to really solving problems in a unique way, beyond grants, collaborating with other partners, other makers, in a little bit of a unique structure for my boxes has also really helped, because now they're also promoting my business and we're cross promoting each other. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Janay, any thoughts on?
Yeah, so we applied right away for the state SBA grants, didn't get them. Applied for the Pivot grant for manufacturers. They're pivoting to make PPE, didn't get that. I have applied to the Right Place, I have applied to the Chamber, have been looking at some other potential accelerator funds in the community. I'm also still in the middle. We already had a state grant that we were trying to write before this. So this is like, this is like a nightmare to be running the business and doing all of these applications and getting the numbers in for this group and this group. You know, I was talking with someone yesterday about, you know, when there was like an ideal situation where you could apply to one thing one time and it could filter through to all the different stuff. So, you know, like it's a lot, you know, because like what we're doing before is what we're doing now, but the context now is totally different. The volume is different. I mean, it's incredible. So trying to paint the picture about why we need money, even though, you know, we are bringing money in, is still, you know, because we're trying to build infrastructure literally in the moment. So, you know, like I have to buy machines, I have to bring on more staff, and I'm taking risks when I'm doing that. There's no coverage for that to this point. And so that's, you know, mad stress. I barely sleep because it's, you know, worrying about health and all of those factors. So I would say, you know, I have a lot of concerns. I remain very concerned about the allocation of resources, both at the national, state, and theoretically also to the local level. You know, I'm not seeing how resources are being equitably distributed. I'm not seeing them go to small organizations enough. I'm hearing a lot of stories of people never qualifying, even for just a couple $1,000s. And it's like, if you can't, you know, if we're giving large companies that happen to have less than 500 employees in this location versus like, but they're a global company. I mean, I'm supportive of global companies getting relief, you know, don't get me wrong, but like, how do we look at equitably distributing those resources? And then very much so for organizations and businesses that are run by people of color. Like, how are we ensuring that people are getting access to these dollars? Because this is incredibly devastating. We all know that. And we have no idea of the repercussions that are going to be coming for this for years. I mean, you know, the deficit at the city level for revenue, which is going to impact services, which is, you know, everyone's having to make decisions about, okay, we have like $2 instead of $2,000. How do we spend this $2? You know, I've heard that a lot of conversation that's happening sort of at the national level is really around an equitable reconstruction. Like, how do we actually use this opportunity to truly not say, like, let's go back to normal, because normal is incredibly oppressive for a lot of people. So how do we actually take this time to recalibrate about what does it look like to be a business in the marketplace? For us in particular, we would argue you need to care about humans and the environment at all times. You know, we need to be thinking about resources from a financial standpoint, but my perspective is, as an entrepreneur and as a human, is that we need to put at the bottom line, how are we impacting the lives of people in a positive way? And how are we having an impact on the environment? Because our supply chains have been messed up. You know, we have been allowing global systems to just, you know, default to a really capitalist mentality. And we really need to interrogate those things as we build for what the future economy looks like, because it needs to look and feel very different than it has. That's my speech.
Well, that was a good speech, and that could be a whole topic.
Amen. And it should be. We should have this every day, all the time.
I agree. I totally agree. Kyle?
Yeah, I guess I'll speak to two specific things. I guess like Janay, we've applied for just about everything that we were eligible for. The state grants, I don't think anyone has heard back on yet. And I know in Kent County there were way more applicants than there will be recipients. Specifically for the restaurant industry, you know, we were fortunate. We did qualify and receive a PPP loan. Unfortunately for our industry, though, it's not helpful. It's not useful for restaurants or the hospitality industry. Servers, because we aren't open. We're not open for service, and so to actually benefit from the loan, or to receive forgiveness in turning it into a grant, basically, we have to have all of our employees back on. And it's still not clear at what point we have to have our employees back on. It says, if you just read the letter, it says on June 30. in reality, once the guidelines come out, it will probably be an average over time from the time of the shutdown until then. And that's just not practical for anybody in this industry. Even folks that are successfully offering takeout, their staff is a skeleton compared to what it used to be. And so I don't see how it will benefit the hospitality industry. And there's other industries like that it just doesn't make sense. The other challenge with that is it's better for a lot of our employees to not be working right now and to be on payroll. And so that's a consideration of ours as well. The other thing, and I guess to get to the question specifically about what we would suggest to leadership or those in leadership right now, I would say that the governor has done an excellent job of making very difficult decisions on a daily basis. And I know that she's receiving a lot of criticism for many things. And maybe some of those things are right. Maybe there's a few things that she could have done differently, but I think for someone in her position to day in and day out make difficult decisions that impact every single person, their bottom line, their ability to make a living or to run a business, I can't imagine the stress that she's under. And I know that we're all under a great deal of stress ourselves. But I will say one thing that helped, but that I hope gets another look in the future is the deferred payment of sales and use tax at the state level. When we were shut down on March 16, she also announced that day that the sales and use tax from February could be deferred from March 20 to April 20, and then a second deferment was made for both of those payments from April 20 until May 20. That was incredibly important, especially for folks in industries that were shut down on March 16. That meant that no additional revenue was going to come in unless they were able to pivot to offering a different product. And so significant amounts of money would be due to the state on the 20th of the month. And we felt that that would be the first big hurdle for a lot of these businesses. There were going to be plenty of businesses that wouldn't have that money in the bank when they went to pull that out. I don't see how deferring those 2 months of payments to May now is going to help many of these businesses because they they still don't have the revenue to cover that.
Right.
And now it's just compounding. And my fear is, whenever that payment comes due, if they don't work out some payment schedule over time, it will put people out of business or it will crash their bank account. I think, and I know that this is crazy and probably not viable for the state because I know they're under huge budgetary constraints now too. No application needed. All you need to do is forgive it. And that impacts every business that has to pay sales tax from February or has accrued some over the past past couple months. And so I think that's a really easy way to impact every small business that's been impacted by this. And there's no review process necessary. There's no application process. It could be huge. And so I hope that that's a consideration. I haven't heard, I keep poking and hoping that that's something that people are talking about. I haven't heard that that's actually something people are discussing. But I do think that that would be a really successful way to help a lot of folks in really hard-hit industries.
Yeah.
I mean, I think necessary is an important piece there because, just to my earlier point of trying to keep up with the applications while keeping up with your business and project the future of your business in this really turbulent time. When you're a small shop, it's nearly impossible to keep up. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, obviously everybody keeps talking about, hopefully soon things will start to open up, and I know it's going to be slow, and, and there's that hopefulness about that, but there's so many things to consider for businesses that will start to open back up because it's not going to be, automatic profitability. There's going to be costs associated with opening up. And so how do you do that in a way that's thoughtful, in a way that's, I mean, like Kyle said, you're not opening up anytime soon, and what does that look like when you do? So it's just unbelievably uncertain. So, I don't know, not to be pessimistic, but that's the truth. And so everybody's just going to have to navigate that and go at it with some degree of grace, hopefully. So, Murphy, do we have any other outside?
Yeah, we have probably time for one more question before we do parting thoughts. And then just so you all know, there are some questions that maybe didn't need to be broadcasted, but that we're just asking you all questions if you want to tune into the Facebook stream afterwards and kind of take a peek at those. So Janay, you briefly mentioned utilizing a light box for UV sanitation. At Mary Free Bed, we use it to blast N95 masks overnight to extend their life a few more days. How is your team using this technology?
Well, we're not. I mean, we have an engineer, a volunteer that's been part of our team since the beginning. And so she's been building this UV light box thing, but we have not had access to the other sanitation type of infrastructure. So, I mean, we would love to be able to link up if that makes sense. At this point, because we're making for a variety of organizations, businesses, or families, individuals across the community and across the country, we again can't make that claim around the being completely sanitized, but if there's a way that we can incorporate that, we would be happy to do that if it works.
Great. Anything else, Murphy? Okay. Why don't we go around and just have everybody sort of give us a parting thought, and then what I want to encourage everybody that's watching is that if you've got if there's a discussion that you think would be valuable for us to have with other panelists. I mean, we're going to be doing this every week, so we want to make things. We want to talk about things that are relevant, that are interesting. So we welcome suggestions, but. Anyway, Winsome, what are your parting thoughts this morning?
So I'm going to say thank you again for having me on. I'm really excited to be able to be in a position to represent so many artisans in my portfolio and all of my baskets. We're constantly adding new to our website. And actually, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Wakanda Mother's Day box, which we have featuring a number of Black-owned businesses here in Grand Rapids. So if you haven't got your Mother's Day gift yet, go check that out and stay positive, and let's keep collaborating, because as we work together, I think we'll get through the other end even stronger. Yep.
Janay?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, yes, thank you for having us, for sure. I think part of, what I said earlier was, it remains really true for me, and I think it needs to be something that hopefully continues to be discussed in multiple different spaces with different groups and organizations, is how do we move from an extractive economy to a regenerative economy, and one that is really thoughtful about people and the environment throughout it. And I think that while many have the opportunity to pause and be at home for extended periods of time, and really think through, like, what is it that they want to be doing next, as we step back into sort of the world. My hope is that through healing each other and our own selves, that we can begin to heal a little bit more collectively. And I think as we really not to only exclusively think about our own community or our own state, but I think it's really incredibly important that we look around and start to collaborate, like Winsome said, in new ways, hopefully. Start to be a little bit more thoughtful about what are our supply chains looking like, because if you can't live in your own supply chain, you got to recalibrate, because in this industry in particular, it's made up of 75 million garment workers around the world, and most of them are not paid very well, if they're paid. A lot of them are slave labor. And so we have to be really thoughtful about, when we go back to consuming, what are we consuming and from whom, and what are the values of that company or that organization, and how are those values being played out in the products that they're making. And so really thinking about that connection between the humans that are making the products that we use, the environment, the waste, because I mean, we're recycling 0.2% of textiles in the state of Michigan. So I would definitely call on people to be thinking about, you know, as you look to buy promotional products in the future, where are those products coming from? Who made them? You know, did we use material that was here first instead of having to mine for new materials from the earth? And so all of those things matter. Every decision matters when you're in a business, and really, you know, putting the financial component with the environmental and the human, and being more sustainable in that. So I would hope in the future to just see more like activists, and you know, the work of intersectionality is super important here, and it's complex and it's messy, but it is the kind of work that's real, that will create a system that is sustainable. Because a lot of what's happening and a lot of what we've seen through this process is that we have unsustainable systems. We have businesses that are relying on revenue that isn't there. And when you take 2 weeks away, I mean, that's what I heard in the very beginning, like 2 weeks, man, that's what I got. And that is a stress that all of us entrepreneurs or leaders of an organization are dealing with all the time, is that stress.
Yep.
So I think we need to revamp and think through this, and bring those different voices together, and really challenge ourselves to not just say the same stuff over and over again, but to really truly push this into a new space.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. Kyle.
Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity. It's been a good discussion, and I appreciate the other two panelists and their perspectives as well. This has been great. I guess from the beginning, you know, what started out with a great deal of dread and stress and no sleep. My only comfort through all of this has been that we're kind of all in this together, and that we're not the only ones that are facing the mountain of trouble and worry for the future. And so I think one of the great things that we've seen, one of the most positive silver linings, has been the opportunity to partner and collaborate with each other as we adapt and as we move forward. And you know, also we've seen a great deal of grace from folks, from our customers and from our team members, and so just asking for that going forward from folks in the community. Continue to support your local businesses and however you can, but not just the local business, but their employees and their team members as well. Try to do what you can to support them, knowing that you're probably going through a tough time too. So, you know, I guess we're as excited as we can be about the future. We're trying to keep a really optimistic outlook. And I look forward to getting past whatever this is that we're in right now.
Yep. Well, thanks all of you. This has been a really great discussion. And stay healthy, stay safe, stay positive, and we will talk again soon. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.